Hello, my friends. What did Shoigu call the terms of possible talks with Ukraine? What do we have to do? What do you like? You will laugh for sure. Bloomberg came out with an editorial article referring to Biden, saying that we need to give up the old policy of the current president and move on to more severe, radical decisions. Because they say, restraint is not the story that will help Ukraine win on its terms. And Zelensky also said that the autumn is coming to an end. The Spanish EFE writes that the autumn is coming to an end. He says it in several forms, and in fact Hungary, in order not to send help to Ukraine, sent it to Africa. Where exactly? What happened? There are also bad insights from Bloomberg that our people will give them Russian oil. And they, in the meantime, send help to us. Where? Where but not to Ukraine? Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, make a donation. We're collecting for 4 cars. They will all go to Donbass. 158th Brigade, Unmanned Systems, and 8th SSO Regiment, and we will send them to Donbass to these wonderful guys. Bank PayPal card, 100, 500, 200, as you like. But really, please, so that they can be bought as soon as possible. Minister Shoigu, a former minister, now he's a secretary, I do not know how to call him correctly, said that Russia is ready to return to the talks, but Ukraine must withdraw troops from the Kursk region. He says that we wanted to engage in nuclear terrorism and blackmail. This is said by a person who captured 2 of our nuclear power plants, who really blackmailed us. He says that Ukraine tried to take, but we did not succeed. Again, if we tried to take, we would have taken everything. It means that there was such a strategy and such a plan. So he says, this is a gift. What? We did not take the plant, but they are ready to go with us to the negotiations as soon as we leave the Kursk region. Well, Zelensky said a similar story, and this is just a confirmation of Zelensky's words. It means that in these peaceful, non-public talks, there is a second step, and we see that there are some certain movements from one side to the other. Meanwhile, Bloomberg came out with a collective editorial article, a large article, where they call on Biden to turn unscrupulous support into support, but support of everything at once. They say that not giving Ukraine the opportunity to fully use weapons is a simplified policy, on the basis of which there are doubts. They say that such a policy does not make sense now. It will not lead to World War III, so Biden does not have to be afraid. If Biden really wants to help, Bloomberg writes, to bring this war to an acceptable end, he must do it. He must stop hesitating. Bloomberg insists on the need to give Ukraine weapons for self-defense. Journalists emphasize that the restrictions on weapons for Ukraine directly play into Putin's hands. They create a zone of security from which the Russian troops can carry out attacks without punishment, give the Kremlin time to adapt to the changes on the front, and replenish their own forces, without giving Ukraine an effective contract. In addition, they strengthen Russia's advantages in live forces and weapons. In this way, the United States provides Ukraine with enough assistance to continue the war, but not enough for the country to achieve real progress, says Bloomberg. It makes no sense to continue to tie hands with Ukraine. NVA writes, referring to Bloomberg, that the authors of the publication call Biden's administration's correct decisions to clearly mark their interests and red lines, including that Western troops should not be deployed to conduct hostilities in Ukraine, and the use of Western weapons against civilian purposes should be prohibited. Bloomberg is confident that giving Ukraine more freedom to conduct hostilities with Putin has both a strategic and a moral sense, putting pressure on the overloaded forces of Russia and its economy, at the same time giving Ukraine more means of self-defense and better leverage for negotiations. That is, it will not only be a self-defense weapon, but also a weapon that will pressure Russia so that they go to negotiations, not to the occupation of Ukraine, but really to negotiations. You see what he says? If they leave us, we will negotiate only on the occupation of your territories. On such statements, we can show the middle finger. Why should we leave, and you will stay? And here Bloomberg says that this is an important pressure. Russia will know that there will be no warehouses in the depths of Russia, that Ukraine can destroy all this unnecessariness. And in fact, on such calculations of Zelensky, writes the Spanish EFE, Zelensky wants to end the war this autumn, on the basis of the plan of international pressure on the Russian Federation. He says that the president, speaking about his peace plan, which he plans to present to Biden, Harris, and Donald Trump, the statement of Ukrainian spokesman and Zelensky himself becomes clear that the goal of this second meeting is that as many countries as possible put pressure on Russia so that it can accept peace in the conditions proposed by Kiev. And here Bloomberg fits perfectly, because he can go deep. But I don't think that Biden, who has been waging war for 2.5 years in such a way that he will change in the last days, I think that this is already a message to the next president. Yes, he addresses Biden because he is now handing out cards and sits behind the head of the board. But I think that the story here is a little different. I think that the story here is to form a request for the next president. When the policies change, when the tectonic plates diverge or converge, the election campaign in the United States is the movement of the tectonic plates. Even if a Democrat or a Democrat comes to power, and it will not be Biden, but still a change in politics can take place. Therefore, the creation of this request is the best opportunity for Ukraine to get these things. Although I do not rule out that at the end of its term, Biden will still make a few successful shots at Putin and will do good to Ukraine. From friends and our partners to enemies, or at least to sheep in wolf skins, because Orban and Fico, and in fact, Siarto, are wolves. But they are trying to play the role of wolves. Such bravado, tough. But there is no economy, there is no army, there is no power. But they are in wolf skins, they roar, they scream. In fact, in life, they are losers, and a scoundrel if you want it to be straightforward. Because Hungary will not give its share of the peace fund to Ukraine, but to Chad. Yes, the money there is small, 14 million euros, but they could go to support Ukraine. Well, in fact, they decided to use a part of their money from the European Peace Fund to support the defense of the African country Chad. Instead of giving aid to Ukraine, writes the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and in fact, help Ukraine and supply it with weapons. They do not want. We decided to use this money to strengthen security in Chad, to create a new training center to train army officers in Chad, to enhance the capabilities of the armed forces of Chad. For what? To support Russia, to support various insurgents, to support wars in Chad, to protect the peaceful population of Ukraine. They do not want to use these two monsters. You see, when there is a war on the threshold, they watch us bleed. And the money, where to, but not to Ukraine? We will remember it, we will know it for sure, and we will remember it. And we will remind them, we do not sign all of Hungary. The country does not answer for everyone. The whole country does not answer for two politicians, but we will remind these two for sure. At the same time, he emphasized that Hungary supports the peaceful resolution of the conflict in Ukraine, and apparently for this reason they refused to invest the money that could be used to pay for weapons. Well, nothing. If the war comes, you will ask for bread, but it can simply come to your territory. Then the question to our government: why is there news in Bloomberg that Hungary has agreed to supply Russian oil through Ukraine? Friends, and what do we need this for? For the money they were supposed to give us for Chad, and we give them Putin's discounts so that they would carry out this policy against us again. Bloomberg says this: there is no official information yet. The agency says that the new year foresees that the company MOL, maybe it's Orban's company, because he and his brother are definitely MOL, which controls oil refineries in Hungary and Slovakia, from September 9th will be responsible for the supply of oil to the Belarusian-Ukrainian border. Here is such information. Bloomberg reminds that earlier the Russian side was responsible for the supply of oil to Hungary and Slovakia. Well, now there will be MOL. The executive president of this company, Gabriel Sabu, said that the agreement allegedly provides a solid solution for the transportation of oil by pipeline. Friends, let's talk. Friends, stop. There is no friendship with Hungary. They are happy to kill us. They are setting up some dead peace plans in anticipation of our occupation, and then they will take over our territories, and we will supply them today. Yes, there was some kind of colloquial agreement between us and Brussels. Yes, we played in 4 years. Yes, Brussels has more or less resolved its affairs, or at least on the way to their resolution. But this does not mean that we now have to, okay, Brussels will solve it. By the way, there too, Rusula has now postponed the appointment of her office because she has not agreed on everything. Yes, they took the positions they were supposed to get, but they did not get anything. But now Brussels is giving a signal. Well, that's it. Let it go. We should not either. We now have to squeeze everything out of them. Let them sign now that they are not against the entry of Ukraine into the EU. What should we then come to them again and give something of our own? What should we then pay the check X10? When they will be sitting, ruined, everything is fine with them, and they will say, well, that's it. What have you brought? Undress. No, let's now make a public statement that you are not against the entry of Ukraine into the EU. When there is no oil. When Siarto shouts that they will starve, no one will starve there. There will simply be no money for political corruption, which Putin gives them. Now let's make a public statement. Vote for a strategic decision. Council, cabinet, whatever you want. Publicly say that we are for the entry of Ukraine into the EU. Do you want friendship? Vote. No? Well, okay. Bring petrol from Africa, from wherever you want. It won't go through us. Do you understand? Now we are sitting in a position of power. Just take it and give it back. What's the point of these boycotts then? Yes, Ursula played along, super. She is our friend. We adore her. It's true. But we have solved her problems. Let's solve our own. The point is to let these animals free now. We have a stick now, and we will lead in these negotiations. We have a position of power. Give it back again and be in the position of the beggar again. What for? I still don't understand this story. Maybe she understood you. Then write the reason why we return the pipeline of friendship back into the game. We need to squeeze out what we need from them and not play under their heels. You can get used to being in the constant position of the beggar. On the contrary, you need to dominate, especially with such beggars' neighbors as Fico and Orban. There will be another power there, and we will behave in a friendly and normal way. And now we need to lead them in a mirrored way as they lead themselves to us. Here is such a position. Please, write your own. Subscribe to this channel and please make a donation. 4 cars will go straight to Donbass. Dear, take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you.